Always on. These two words describe our modern world. Always online, always plugged in, always busy, always distracted, always reacting. The antidote to the poisonous effects of being always on is solitude. The habit of being alone with your thoughts. The decision to step back and quiet your mind so you can gain clarity. Focusing on important work, alone, without distraction. But solitude has always been important, even in a less distracted world than the one we live in now. And it's always been a practice of the greats, whether it's Isaac Newton discovering gravity while quarantined in the 1600s during the Great Plague, Einstein barricading himself upstairs in the study of his house, spending hours each day working on equations, or Nikola Tesla, who put it so well: originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. So let's take a quick look at how you can leverage this practice of being alone, engaging in solitude, so you can quiet your mind, gain clarity, make better decisions, and be more focused. First, understand that solitude is a state of mind. As Raymond Keflage and Michael Irwin write in Lead Yourself First, solitude can be found as readily while sitting alone in a restaurant as it can on Mount Rainier. It is not an objective concept, but a subjective one. It is simply a subjective state of mind in which the mind, isolated from input from other minds, works through a problem on its own. But how do we intentionally enter this state of mind? How do we intentionally benefit from solitude? Well, here's 5 practices that I recommend. The first is to engage in what's called purposeful or productive solitude. See, solitude is the fuel behind great creative and intellectual work. As Picasso once said, without great solitude, no serious work is possible. Whether you're writing a business plan, you're thinking through a difficult leadership decision, or you're studying for college exams, solitude is not only beneficial, it's practically essential. Without it, you can't engage in the deep thinking that needs to be done. And purposeful and productive solitude is exactly what you think it is. It's work, it's deep work, focused work, thinking work. It's J.K. Rowling booking a hotel room to get away from the distractions of home so she could finish the final Harry Potter book. It's Carl Jung studying and working alone in his tower in Bellingen. But this type of solitude, this purposeful, productive solitude, doesn't always need to be the type of solitude where you're sitting down at a desk and working. It might be the executive who goes for a weekend hike to think through strategy for the business that he runs. Or it might be the aspiring entrepreneur who goes for a long drive to think about how they can best launch their first product. The point of purposeful and productive solitude is that there's a point, there's a purpose, there's a goal. You are focusing your attention, your thinking towards some sort of problem or idea instead of just letting it roam free. But sometimes we need another type of solitude. We need undirected and unstructured solitude, because there is value in just letting your mind wander, to spend time alone without any goal, any purpose or particular thought in mind. This is counterintuitive for us to do because we're so used to being objective driven, to working towards the next step. To spend time alone without any aim at all is not a common practice, but it is a valuable one, because it's often during these undirected and unstructured periods of solitude that the chatter in one's mind starts to quiet down and true clarity comes to the surface. Personally, I like to go for hikes in nature to experience this kind of unstructured solitude. I find it's just easier to keep walking than to sit down at a desk or on a couch doing nothing. Plus, there's the added benefit of exercise. Speaking of exercise, this leads into our third point, which is exercise as a form of solitude. In his article, Why I Run, Ryan Holiday writes, "Running is how I face what I need to face. It's when I turn everything else off and am forced to deal. It's my time to meditate. It's when I feel flow, but not in a work or creative capacity." See, exercise too can be a form of solitude if you let it. Swap out that group fitness class for a solo run. No music, no podcasts, just you and your mind. Or next time you're lifting at the gym, don't take your phone with you. Just lift and then use the rest time between sets to do nothing, just to be in solitude. Let yourself be alone. 90% of my solo exercise time is done without music and without podcasts, and it's been this way for years, intentionally. Would it be nice to go for a run while listening to music or a podcast? Yeah, it would. It'd probably make it a bit easier and a bit less boring. But I'm more convinced of the value of silence than the value of consumption, even if that consumption is educational. And this is because there aren't many opportunities to be alone and to experience this silence in the modern world. And so you should take every chance you can get, especially if you're a busy person. Fourth practice is to take a solitude retreat. In 2020 and 2021, I was working through a bunch of business decisions, strategic decisions, and my need for solitude and thinking time was more important than ever. I had to do that deep thinking work. And I just couldn't seem to find the time, or I couldn't seem to find the space to do that work. And so I ended up booking multiple solitude retreats over the course of those 2 years. What I would do is every couple of months, I would book a hotel room or an Airbnb alone for 2 or 3 nights. And I would just take pen and paper. Sometimes I'd take a book if it was relevant to what I was dealing with, and I would just think in solitude. Even today, when the pressure comes on and I feel like I need that space to think, I'll take a solitude retreat. So this is something you can try yourself if you feel like you're not getting ahead, if you haven't had enough time alone, or if you're under too much pressure and you just need to map everything out and just think and let it all organize itself. Final practice is to implement solitude throughout your day. Not all of us have the luxury of a cabin in the woods or a tower on the lake like Carl Jung, but we can make minor but powerful changes during our day to experience the solitude that we need. Here's a few ideas. First, carve out some time during your day to just spend time in solitude. It might be 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. You might journal, meditate, pray, reflect, think, whatever it might be. Find this time, put it in your routine and stick to it. Use it to order your inner life each and every day. Stop consuming so many podcasts. It's easy to think that you need to listen to the next 2-3 hour podcast on Joe Rogan or with Alex Hormozy or Andrew Huberman or whatever. And it's useful to have knowledge and information, but if you're someone who doesn't spend enough time in solitude, then it's likely more valuable to just spend time alone with your own thoughts and let all that knowledge and information that you've consumed start to arrange itself and actually think through the problems that you're faced with instead of constantly bombarding yourself with new ideas. Another thing you could do is when you're driving, whether it's to work, from work, picking your children up from school, whatever it may be, just don't listen to anything. Turn the radio off. No one listens to the radio. What am I talking about? Turn the music off, turn Spotify off, turn the podcast off. Silence. Just you and your thoughts. Solitude. And then finally, figure out how you can structure your days around long periods of solitude if it's possible. For me, I like to structure my days around my deep work, my 3 to 4 hours of deep work that I do every morning. That to me is productive solitude. And if I get that 3 to 4 hours in, then I'm feeling pretty good. I've got enough time to think. I've got enough time to push things forward and do great creative work. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment below with your thoughts. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.